All right, let's just dive right into this incredibly fascinating source material today. It promises to reveal the hidden levers of human psychology that leaders, marketers, and influencers are using every single day. We're going to deconstruct 5 deeply ingrained psychological tactics for influencing others effectively, and the crazy part is, they do it almost completely silently. But before we break down the 5 tactics we found in the source material, I actually want you to ask yourself kind of an unsettling question. Imagine if someone could essentially read your mind, predict your emotions, and gently steer your decisions without you ever even noticing. So ask yourself, were the decisions you made today genuinely yours, or did someone else subtly guide you there? The source we're unpacking today suggests it's very often the latter. Now, right out of the gate, there's a strict warning here, and we absolutely have to echo it. We're analyzing these psychological tricks objectively. Think of this explainer as a tool for awareness and defense, to help you recognize when these tactics are being used on you, definitely not a playbook for malicious manipulation. Trust me, once you see these patterns, you literally won't be able to unsee them. So, let's begin our countdown with some cognitive manipulation. Trick number 5, the reverse trap. Bypassing cognitive resistance. You know how when someone tells you, don't look back, your brain is basically screaming at you to turn around? Well, this tactic is built entirely on that fundamental human flaw, our overwhelming desire to do exactly what we are told not to do. If you use a direct request like, please do this task for me, you naturally invite resistance. But the reverse trap flips the script entirely. By saying, I had a task for you, but you probably can't do it, you aren't asking for a favor at all. You're challenging them. What's really happening here is that it acts as an ego trigger. By subtly bruising their ego and doubting their ability, their rational brain just shuts off. They'll immediately rush to prove you wrong by doing exactly what you secretly wanted them to do in the first place. You never force them, you just let their own ego do the heavy lifting. Pretty wild, right? Moving right along to trick number 4, the illusion of choice, framing the options. The whole idea here is that true power doesn't actually come from forcing people to do things. It comes from framing the options they get to choose from. Think about a simple weekend question. If you ask, do you want to go out? They have the total freedom to say no. But if you frame the choice instead as, should we go to Pizza Hut or Domino's? You've effectively removed the option to stay home entirely. The target feels like they're making a completely free choice between 2 pizza places, oblivious to the fact that you already won the main negotiation. Now, if you're thinking this just works on your friends, no way. Our source points out that major brands and marketers use this exact same framework every single day. Think about buy one, get one free, or buy two, get 50% off. You stand there in the aisle feeling like a genius, thinking you're choosing the absolute best deal. But the reality? The marketers design the options so you end up buying their product either way. You are playing their game the whole time. The psychology behind all of this is something the source calls controlled freedom. People don't actually want absolute freedom. Honestly, it's kind of overwhelming. What we want is the feeling of control, so our ego feels safe. As an influencer, if you control the menu, you control the outcome, all while letting the other person feel like they're the one in charge. Okay, let's transition away from cognitive tricks and into deep, emotional vulnerabilities with trick number 3, the guilt's trap, shifting to emotional vulnerabilities. We all know forcing someone to apologize pretty much never works, right? But guilt? Guilt is an emotion that forces people to yield all on their own. Imagine a friend who keeps flaking on you. A direct accusation like, you never make time for me, instantly causes them to build a defensive wall. But the second phrase, I understand, if I were important, you'd make time, completely drops those defenses. It bypasses the argument entirely and instantly triggers this profound, heavy guilt. The source actually defines this specific move as the emotional mirror. By holding this mirror up to them, you aren't forcing an apology or getting angry. You're just reflecting their behavior back at them. And then, their own guilt does the heavy lifting, prompting them to reach out and make amends completely on their own. It is silent, and it is incredibly effective. And that brings us to trick number 2, the emotional hijack, taking the remote control. This one dives really deep into how we humans actually process decisions. And spoiler alert here, it's rarely logical. The source explains that while we love to think of ourselves as rational creatures, if someone can capture your emotions, they effectively hold the remote control to your brain. Because when a person is experiencing an intense feeling, their logical processing centers essentially just shut down. To see how this plays out in the real world, the source points straight to politicians. Across the board, they're absolute masters of this. They intentionally utilize triggers like shock, guilt, love, and fear during speeches, abandoning dry facts to evoke a visceral reaction. By tapping into your fear or your pride, they seamlessly secure a vote through an emotional hijack, totally bypassing your critical thinking. There's this brilliant quote from the text that just sums it up perfectly. People remember how you made them feel, not the logic you gave them. In a moment of heightened emotion, you might make a choice you later regret. But the tactic works because long after the facts and the statistics fade away, the emotional imprint they left on you remains completely intact.
Finally, we've reached the climax of our countdown, the ultimate nonverbal weapon. Trick number 1, the power of silence.
To really get this one, I want you to take a second and think back to when you were a kid and you made a massive mistake. What was the one reaction from an authority figure that terrified you the most? Was it the yelling, or was it something else? The source makes a compelling argument that psychology's absolute most powerful tool is total, unbroken silence. We so often mistake the loudest person in the room for the most powerful, but true control belongs to the person who observes, listens, and weaponizes the quiet. The source uses this super relatable example, contrasting what they call the mom approach with the dad approach. When a parent yells and scolds, it's expected. Your brain knows exactly how to process it. But contrast that with the terrifying, freezing silence of a parent who just gives you a single look. When nothing is said, your brain just panics. It races to fill the void, imagining 1,000 scenarios far worse than a scolding ever would have been. Silence breeds discomfort, fear, and ultimate compliance.
So, how is this used practically? Say you want to extract the truth from a friend. You don't argue. Step 1, you look at them and state calmly, I know everything. Step 2, remain completely, uncomfortably silent. And step 3, just wait. You allow their own mounting anxiety and guilt to push the truth right out of them. They will literally negotiate against themselves just to break the tension. Oh, and it totally works in conflicts too. Even in a heated argument, if you want to completely disarm someone, do not raise your voice. Simply hold strong eye contact, offer a slight, calm smile, and remain completely silent. The other person will immediately begin to doubt their own words, lose their momentum, and stumble. Your silence just makes their anger look foolish.
Wow, okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this explainer today. Now that you understand the mechanics of the reverse trap, how choices are framed, the heavy weight of guilt, emotional hijacks, and the devastating power of silence, take a hard, honest look at your interactions today. As you move forward, ask yourself, who is really holding the remote control to your decisions? Stay curious, stay observant, and we'll see you in the next explainer.